Well, folks, it's been a bit of a day today because the Business New Zealand are pulling out of the fair pay agreement discussions. Now, what does all this mean? Fair pay, guys, is a piece of legislation this government's bringing up. What that is taking us back to the 1960s and 70s. What happens then is that Wellington will control the wages of workers right through New Zealand. So Wellington, wait for it, and the unions. So there will become compulsory unionism for workers. There will be one worker in that workplace in a small business could actually make sure that everyone else is signed up for the union. There'll be compulsory for employers to engage with the unions. And look, the negotiations are going to be in Wellington. Small business won't even be able to make it down there. And they have to be then the discussions about the pay rates, the hours of work, all those things. And the philosophy is one shoe fits all. So right through the nation, whole fraternities, for example, clerical, which could cover all computer workers, anyone that works at a desk, or it could be blue collar workers, or that covers anyone who works outside and perhaps gets their hands dirty, or they can pick the regime they like to cover as many workers as they like, thousands and thousands on one document, which will determine what hours you work and what pay you're going to get and other factors as well. Look, Vaughan, I'm dreading this, but I'm so pleased that Business New Zealand have pulled out of this. And, you know, you and I have criticized Business New Zealand, and I was quite delighted. What's your thoughts?
Hey, Max, great. I'm glad that you brought the topic up. I mean, it's a few months ago since we last discussed it. But look, hey, the reason why the Fair Pay Agreement is dangerous is it comes down to simple supply and demand. We all know that there is a massive shortage of qualified labour out there, and it's affecting all sectors. What the Fair Pay Agreement does is it sets the scene for workers to exploit the labour shortage and be paid more. Now, a worker might think, well, what's the problem with that? But the reason why it's flawed and outdated by about 50 years is the employer-employee relationship is, call me old-fashioned, Max, but the reason why you pay staff more is twofold, right? One, your business can afford it, and two, your staff are actually worth it, they're performing. And so this is a fact, Max, in terms of supply and demand and the basic fundamental principles of economics, to recruit and retain good staff, you normally do have to pay over the odds. And if you don't believe that, you deserve to fail in business because you're an idiot. So now we've cleared that up. The New Zealand business sector does not need draconian rubbish like the Fair Pay Agreement. What the New Zealand business sector really needs is for the government to get the heck out of the way of the business community so we can activate the New Zealand economy into recovery mode. I mean, that's the bit that makes sense to me. And I can assure you, Max, I could debate this with anybody out there. I'd bury them inside the minute. So back to you, Max.
You've nailed it, Vaughan. You've really nailed it. Supply and demand. Right now, people, if you've been listening to Vaughan and I, what we've seen is that it's so difficult to get workers right now. Their pay is lifting. So employers and workers are moving around. Why? Because they want more money. And why? And employers now are having to compete for it, and they're lifting the wages. The wages are lifting like this right now. And Vaughan's dead right. The supply and demand's lifting those wages anyway. They needed to go up. And that's exactly what's happening through natural attrition. The bad business that can't afford them is failing, is going to fall over. They're going to lose those good workers. But the good workers will get rewarded. And based on what? Productivity. Now, that's where Vaughan's spot on again. And what we're going to have, and I can tell you, I was around in the 70s and 80s when we saw this regime in place before, and it's based on earnings envy. So if you're in a particular fraternity on one document and you look across the other person who might be doing not even similar, another role, and they're getting more than you, then you've got to compete with them. You're going to have to say, well, I want 8% increase. Oh, no, I'm going to go for 10. And it'll be up to the unions in Wellington going with the government, because, by the way, the government said that they're going to fill in for Business New Zealand, and they're going to do the negotiations on behalf of employers. Well, how about that, folks? And look how generous they've been with your pay so far.
Hey, Max, and you know, I'll close with this because I know how you love to get the last word, but you touched on it at the beginning. I've been very critical of Kirkhope and Business New Zealand, going as far as comparing them to the organisation to a pack of glad-handing, subservient patsies. But on this occasion, Max, I have to totally eat my words because Kirkhope and Business New Zealand are on the money. Taking a stand on the Fair Pay Agreement is about standing up and being counted when it matters. I mean, sheesh, at this rate, I might have to put Business New Zealand back on my Christmas card list.
Well, good on you, Vaughan. Those last words are very wise. And look, I'm delighted with them as well. And I'm just urge all my colleagues out there in my same business as I am, because I've negotiated collective bargaining for a long time and I work for EMA doing it. Give it up. Don't go near this. And I think stay right away from it, because it's nothing but going to cause you hell and also your reputations. Thanks, Vaughan.
Awesome. Thanks, Max. Catch you